Here's some positives about potentially being watched by aliens. A problem I know everybody faces nowadays. So, first of all, you're never alone, man. It's such good motivation, too. Because if you assume some outside observer, let's say alien force, tries to push you into their evil scheme, never again will you act unconsciously doing something where you're like, oh, should I be doing this? Because you're thinking, oh, this is what the aliens would want me to do. They want me weak. So I'm gonna be cool instead, and I'm gonna do the right thing and not have an entire box of ice cream. I'm actually gonna have like 2 leaves of lettuce, and I'm gonna meditate for an hour. Yeah! Maybe you can actually get to meet them someday. That would be cool. I mean, hopefully they're not like, this is the person I choose to interact with. The Nazis. And it's like, oh dang, dude. I mean, what might they be up to, right? It's like, imagine you're like some other species that knows how to talk to another species in like their conceptual language and way of understanding to a point where you can actually communicate with them. Do you communicate like, I don't think it's as easy as here's my language and then some little translator spits out some like, hello, it is I, Glorzork from planet XYZ from over there, you know the place. I think it's more like, hey, I want to talk to you, but obviously my entire like chemistry, culture, and physical makeup is so different from yours that I'm just gonna use this technology I have that allows me to see right through you and actually use your own method of speaking to speak to you and use any tool available to me to get my message across to you. And then what is that message? Maybe they just crystallize out to you what you already know. Maybe it's like, oh, I talk to you, but I don't have this like other physical place. I don't have this body that rots away, allowing me to understand the concept of the unknown and death. Maybe it's like some conceptual train of thought trapped in the past somewhere, but it kind of has its own individual idea of itself. And then you're just there being like, oh, this sure is a fantastic idea to communicate with. And it just pumps you full of random ass ideas until at some point you're like, man, I sure wonder like whose these are. Where is this like coming from? But then also whenever I get into those questions, I'm like, where does my sense of self even come from and my image of myself? Do they just fragment you more because it's like you perceiving some other in your head? If it's like interdimensional aliens, probably it's like you perceiving some other in your head. Like, oh, it's me talking to this other creature that's totally not me. But then really it's just like part of you split off. Or maybe it's part of, I don't know if it's as easy to say as is part of you split off. As I said before one time, like, God, have I no idea what it is. What even is you in comparison, right? It's like that thing's idea of itself in your head is just as non-existent as your own idea of yourself. Like, it's so arbitrary. It's just that you have that name that you cling to and say, this is my name and this is what I act like. And this other thing is like, oh, I don't have a name, but this is what I act like. But obviously, they're both, like, in your head, so what it's drawing from must be something that's also part of you. So, whenever I have this over time, it's like, oh yeah, that thing that you say that you are as other obviously is also me. But it's definitely better to think it's aliens than to think it's like other people. It's like, obviously they're spying on you. It's just like, turn off your damn devices, I guess. And then outside of that, technology is getting better and better, and I already try to keep my mind in such a state that I check out as much of it as I can. And then I always assume that something knows what I'm thinking, so I try to be aware of what I'm thinking myself also, at least, so that if at some point somebody comes along and they're like, hey, I know you thought that one thing that one time. I'm like, oh yeah, I know. I put that online also, so that's you know, at least then they can't shame me, because that's like my fear. It's like, oh, something's gonna read my mind and shame me. And it's gonna be a person. That's like terrible. If it was an alien, at least I could say like, yo, this is just what humans do. I'm just like, if it's not a person, what am I gonna say to defend myself? I got fucking nothing.